We've been talking in this series about the quiet crisis in young men, how outdated scripts of toughness, silence, and self-reliance no longer fit the world our boys are growing up in. One of the last places boys consistently find mentors outside of the home is in youth sports. And that's where the crisis and the solution both show up. Because coaches can either reinforce old patterns or they can help build a new definition of strength. One that includes accountability, vulnerability, and heart. Today, I'm joined by Jeff Noviello, a coach who has dedicated over 26 years of shaping young athletes and guiding them through some of the most formative years of their lives. Jeff's journey began in 1999, coaching a girls' high school hockey team in Minnesota. And since 2001, he's been with the Junior Ducks, coaching nearly every level, including his own son's team. And mine. But Jeff's story goes deeper than hockey. His coaching path is tied to his own childhood, his experience as a hockey dad, and resilience his family showed when his son was diagnosed with leukemia while chasing his own junior hockey dreams. In this conversation, we'll explore Jeff's philosophy on coaching, how mentoring shows up beyond the ice, and what it means to prepare boys not just to play the game, but to grow into men. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm grateful to be here.
I've known Jeff, gosh, how long now? 5 years, maybe?
6 years.
5 or 6 years. Yeah. He actually coached my son from the Junior Ducks, which is why I'm wearing orange, for the last 3 years of his youth hockey. And then Nate went on and he's actually playing at the collegiate club level. But those formative years that you mentored and coached Nate from 16 to 18 were crucial in his development and being able to launch. And so I really wanted to have Jeff on the show and talk about how you influence these boys as a coach, being a mentor, not only on the ice, but also in life, right? So you've been coaching for over 26 years, which is amazing in itself, across multiple generations of players. And boys today aren't the same as the one you coached in the late 90s. And I'd love to start right there. From your perspective, what are the biggest shifts you see in how the boys are showing up emotionally, mentally, and physically?
Wow, that's loaded. The first thing that jumps out at me there is just the amount of distractions that kids are facing today.
Yes.
Social media, pressures at school, friendships, family pressures. There's just a lot going on. Not that there wasn't 10, 15, 20 years ago, but I think it's magnified now just by what's out and what they're able to see by scrolling on a daily basis.
It's the phones. It's the social media, right? The outside influences.
Yeah.
The distraction, I think, doesn't allow them to focus fully in almost any kind of present moment that they're in.
Well, the pressure too, because they're seeing like-minded kids having such great success and they're showcasing themselves in such a manner that they want to do what they see. Mm-hmm. So there's pressure there.
What increases the pressure of seeing all the different levels of where they want to go?
I think the kids, I've been doing it long enough to know now and see that the kids are still the same. They're still kids. Mm-hmm. It's just being influenced at a greater level now.
And do you think that not only the pressure that they're putting on themselves, but the expectation from the outside, their parents, their teammates, coaches even, does that increase as well with that?
Yeah, I strongly believe that, yes. The pressure to win, the pressure to succeed is more so because of it's being broadcasted everywhere.
So everything's being filmed now, whether it's practice, whether it's games, showcases, tournaments. Right. Do you find that decreases their ability to show up as a teammate? And are you seeing more solo showcasing and leaving their team behind in a sense?
Oh, man. It's hard to answer that because of my expectations with what I do. And you know me.
Well, have you had to sort of guide kids into that, I would say, team mentality? Do you have to do that more now than you did 10, 15 years ago when things weren't being videotaped?
I think the process to get to that team is a little different now. So I'm able to eliminate those ones that could be a problem in that light. So therefore, I'd say I'm more in tune to the players that I know I'm not going to have those challenges with as I build my teams.
Oh, yes.
So
The pre-planning.
and that's hard because I do believe those kids that I'm not taking need help as well. But the ones that I do select, when I go from 60 or 60 plus down to 20, those 20 I know are all in from day one. And it's just a matter of me creating a culture of more buy-in throughout our season together.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get into his philosophy of
Does that make sense?
coaching and mentoring. Oh, absolutely. There's the strategy of building a team that many people, including myself, we don't see what goes into that. We just know that you go to the skates and you go to the tryouts and you put your all in, and you hope the coach selects you for not only your skill level, but the confidence, the leadership, the team playing. And I think that goes across all sports.
For sure.
But I think we as parents of those athletes, we don't give you enough credit and grace to know that that process is really daunting and it can be very hard. Picking one kid versus another, we don't know what the things that you're trying to build your team, the qualities or the aspects of, or where that player is in their growth that allows you to build the best cohesive team. And I do mean team, not a set of players. When you look at today's generation, where do you see the boys struggling the most?
Learning to be present is a challenge, I think, because there's so much distraction and noise. And then also management of time. I think time management is where I spend a lot of focus with my kids over the last couple of years, more so now, because there's so much going on, with school, social life, friendships, home life, and then the demands on the sport.
How do you guide them in that?
Oh, I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I love that. I use my business as an example. I use my own life. I don't just, talk the talk, I walk the walk. So when I come in with my groups and I talk to them about my day and how distracted I was with time blocking and my day being minute to minute every day, and how I calendar my life and how important it is that when I walk through this door into this room with the 20 of you guys, I'm all in. So I believe that's like a big part of my teaching, is helping them learn to be present and be focused, but manage their time accordingly so they can be.
That's really good advice. Well, and also leading by example. That's key, is that you're walking the walk. I remember a good phrase that Jeff used to use a lot was no excuses. The boys, one year, actually put it on the back of their practice jerseys because he says it a lot. It's no excuses. You need to be responsible for the time that you've set aside for hockey and all the other things that are important in your life as well. And then that comes down to time management to get it all in. Okay, so on the flip side, but where have you seen positive growth compared to 10, 15 years ago?
Right out of the gate, I think the commitment level is super high. The demands on sport to be really center focused on a sport is higher than it's ever been. So the kids that really want to pursue the sport as far as they can are so deeply committed to it. It's not just show up to practice and play your games. It's more of, what are you doing at home? Are you watching video? Are you shooting pucks? Whatever sport it is, are you doing those little things outside of the game and the practices to get better? And I see a lot of it.
Do you see that as a collective all the way across, or just certain players starting to really catch on to that?
I think it's getting bigger. I think the demands are getting higher, therefore the commitment level's getting higher. Right? So kids will soon get passed by if they're not putting in that extra effort. And I think that's hard for me. I coach a high school surf team too, and on my surf kids, I'm just so about the sport gives us so much gratitude to be in the ocean. And I long for them to want to play other sports and do other sports, to well round them, and then just enjoy and embrace that time they have in the ocean. I wish I could do that with hockey and other sports. It's lacrosse, it's soccer, it's baseball. There's such a demand to be good.
Let's go there. And kids seem to be specializing in sports, one sport, single sport kids, much earlier than they used to. I mean, back in my day, which was a long time ago, you could actually letter in 3 different sports in 1 year. You went on from, it was, I don't know, volleyball season, and then it was soccer season, and then it was track. And so a lot of the athletes they would do that sport and then move on to the next, and then move on to the next from the high school perspective. And then a lot of us were playing our primary club sport. I found with both my kids going up, it doesn't work that way anymore. It's very difficult to be a multi-sport kid at a higher level than it was back when I was growing up. So how do you feel about that? Like, you've got kids picking hockey at 9 and that's all they do.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't take this the wrong way, but it's what I feel doesn't matter because the demand is there, right? So what I would like is to be able to see kids do multiple sports. Mm-hmm. I think the prep schools and around the country have it right with the requirement of playing 2 sports, be it golf, be it tennis and hockey, whatever it is, they have those requirements. And I wish more kids could do it. I have a couple of kids on my team now that play lacrosse and baseball, and I love that. Of course, my requirements about being all in all the time are high, and those coaches probably feel the same way about their sport. So there is balance there, but that goes back to our time management and the art of being present that we work on. And that's why I feel like I bring a different element of more than just sport, just teaching kids how to be where they are.
Mm-hmm. It's be in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you be right now. You're here right now. Yes, I follow that same philosophy. So from a physical therapist perspective,
and a very good one at that.
Oh, thank you. It sort of breaks my heart because when you look at motor coordination, development, not only mentally, but physically, and sometimes emotionally, it benefits them greatly to play multiple sports. And then if you look at it from an injury prevention, it's the same thing. When you're doing the same sport over and over, there's certain movements that are repetitive. And so you can almost get too strong doing one thing, and then that leads to overuse and therefore injury. So are you seeing more injuries as well?
I mean, that's your story, but I think through you over the years that we had together, some of those injuries that we dealt with were those types of injuries, overuse.
So with the balance
to demand. On. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do believe the off ice training and in other sports, the additional strength training plays such a big part.
It played a huge part. And actually having them train together, but some sort of off ice training, which is what Jeff's philosophy is. I would just like to incorporate some sort of yoga, stretching. Yeah. It's really hard to get anyone, but particularly adolescent boys and girls, to take 20 minutes after they're done working out, after they're done getting off the ice, and stretch before they get in the car, drive wherever they're going to go and eat. That cuts down injuries 50% or more, maybe even 75%, if you would just lengthen your muscles after pushing it really hard. And I know as we get older, like we can't not stretch anymore. Right. We can't get away with it.
But I want you to know that that's part of the big influence you had on me, because I'm all over that movement and that stretching, that hydration. We just got back from a trip in Chicago, and the 2-hour time change, I made the boys get up every morning and they went outside and they went for a walk with me to get that sunlight in their eyes and get their clock woken up early, Well,
and that's part of the presence,
right?
You have to work with the body and the time change and the nutrition and the hydration and all of that to get the optimal presence that you're looking for. It's not just be here right now. We have a hockey game. It's very much how you set up your life. And I think it's much more of a life philosophy that transitions onto the ice. And that's what you've given to the kids. I really feel like I witnessed.
But that same philosophy mindset goes to all sports, right?
Absolutely.
It's just to all athletes, be it cheerleading for the cheerleaders or the tennis or figure skating, whatever it is. That's such a large piece of it.
And so if we can instill a new foundation of sports, because they become so demanding and they keep getting more demanding, and it's phenomenal what these kids can do at such a young age. But we have to bring in the balance and the awareness of injury prevention and the things we always talk about hydration and nutrition, but really dialing that in from a young age and having it be a family philosophy. the kids will take that and benefit from that for the rest of their lives, because they'll continue to work out even after they've capped out in sports or they've moved on to other things. And yeah, I don't want to say it's exercise is medicine, but
but it is.
But it is. You're right. It is. It's true.
It absolutely is for me.
So with all the changes that you've seen, the difficulty staying present, the time management, I think the commitment levels are in, but keeping them focused on their commitment levels, I guess I would say. How have all those changes affected you? Has it required you as a coach and or a mentor to adapt your philosophy or your approach along the way?
I don't think that's what's demanded the change. I think the demand and change over time is just this constant desire to learn and get better at what I do. So I like to think of it more in the light that each year over the time I've gotten better at what I do and understanding my student per se, my team. So I put a lot of ownership on that. Kids, there's a lot of pressure coming from home in a lot of situations, sometimes overwhelming stress. And I take value in trying to tone that down with my players too.
Toning it down in what way? Not having it bleed over into the ice or addressing it?
Addressing it for one.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to bleed onto the ice. And if I don't try to fix it off the ice.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, for sure. Can you think of an example where you had the opportunity to mentor one of your young players with something going on at home or their personal life in order to, it's not even for the betterment of on the ice, it's just because you needed to be there for them?
Oh, countless stories there. I'll just randomly select a certain situation where I had a kid that was just incredibly distracted all the time on the ice. And this is going back years. So I'm just pulling one out of the weeds here. Mm-hmm. And I could not for the life of me understand why he couldn't do drills right or why he was turning left when he was supposed to turn right. And this went on and on and on through the good portion of a season. And I had in-depth conversations with mom, with dad, with player. And I learned over time, late in the year, and I had him for a couple of years, that he was medicated for ADD. And that changed everything. If I had known from the beginning that that's what we were dealing with, I would have changed my approach. Mm-hmm. So, those types of stories are out there. There's a lot of kids. There's so much pressure coming from home. And unfortunately, I think sometimes parents forget that it's not about them, and the kids are going to take their own path. And you can force it as long as you want and as hard as you want, and push as hard as you want. But if they don't want it, they're never going to go. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of stories like that. And what I've done in those situations is just really, I think this about me. My big thing is I just try to help my players be the best version of themselves in our time together.
And whether they end up becoming a hockey player or not.
I mean, in most cases, it's not, right? There's much more to life than just the sport itself. But some of those kids that are getting that kind of pressure from home, I would really just try to dial in with them and tell them it's okay. Be who you are. And if you love it, pursue it. If you don't love it, then find something else you love.
I always told my kids, sports are work, but at the end of the day, the end of the training, when you get into it, nobody, wants to get out of bed at 6 a.m, but you still love it. There's still a reason you're doing it. And when you stop loving that piece of it, then it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And that's actually what happened to my daughter. So she was playing soccer for many years, and she came to me one day, and it was probably after probably 14 or 15, after freshman club season. And she said, I don't think I want to play anymore. And I said, okay, why? And she said, it just feels like work. It feels like a job, but I'm not getting any joy out of it anymore. And I said, all right, the season was completed. You've got to go tell your coach now.
Yeah.
And so she didn't like that part, but I said, you need to be able to go and thank your coach and face it and do the hard things of learning how to explain why you're moving on. And it was a really good experience for her because her coach completely understood. So there were a couple of life lessons in there of we can do hard things. We face our struggles because really in the end, it's you listening to your higher self. It's you listening to your gut and realizing I'm not going to keep pushing when I don't find any joy in it anymore. Yeah. And I don't just mean the practices. It's always the games. Overall. The kids love the games. The kids, you love learning something new, having a really good practice. And when that light dims, I don't know that it comes back. I mean, I guess if you take time off, you could regenerate it, but she was done. And what was so interesting is I encouraged her to trap for lacrosse. And this is at a time where, especially girls lacrosse, it's not the East Coast lacrosse, right? She made the team, got pulled up to varsity at the end of the year, played all 4 years on varsity the end of the year, and then threw her. She was like defenseman of the year for the last 2 years. And this kid's like 5'2". So she was able to take all those things she learned through being an athlete, through soccer, and apply them differently, but still apply them. And she had great coaches and great mentors also in that. And she had a lot of fun. And that's kind of what
now take that back to the point of that conversation. And had you said, no, you are going to go forward. You're going to do this. I'm demanding that you stick with this. I don't care if you like it. You're going to find out you will over time. How does that work?
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work. It gives you pushback at home because you're requiring something of them. Right. And they've clearly stated it's not for them. And I think from a parent perspective, we have to sit back and we have to make sure that we're not projecting our own stuff onto our kids. The person who didn't make it in their own youth sports and they get a chance to relive it through their kids. I do see that a lot. And it puts just so much pressure on these kids. And you know what? They know while you're there. Yeah. They know if you're there to encourage them, to cheer them on. Yeah. And they also know if you're there because you're seeking some sort of validation or completion from something you weren't able to attain.
Boy, oh boy.
They know.
A lot of that.
They know though.
Oh yeah.
And sure. I think that what happens then is there's a lot more friction at home.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, my parents don't get me. My parents aren't listening to me. And they actually start shutting down even more. And they go to their phones more. And they go to these outside influences that may be good for them and may not. And so that's a checking point, I say, for parents. Like, if you can hold space for your kids and treat them as their own unique individual spirits that were sent to us to guide them, they're not ours.
Yeah.
You'll have a much better relationship.
Absolutely. And you let them love whatever it is they're going to do. Right. And that love is what we want as parents for our kids. Yeah. It's to really love what it is they're doing. Who cares what it is?
Every parent wants that connection with their child. And I'm telling you, if you force them into whatever, this is the commitment. I don't let kids quit mid-season. That's a commitment you've made to your team, your coach. Right. But if it's time to move on, if you don't embrace that, allow that, you will not have that connection. Yeah. Because the kids already feel so unheard. And it's always do as I say, not as I do. But that's part of the landscape of this quiet crisis of young men is we need to change our parenting. We need to be more aware of what we're trying to build on a foundational level for these young men. Last week, it seemed like a young man or adolescent man, there was a shooting in a school like every day last week. And it made me very sad, but it made me look at the bigger picture of why is there so much displaced anger and displaced resentment and even rage? And I can't help but think that a lot of that starts at home with not being heard, not being seen for who they really are, not who we want them to be. Every parent tells me they just want their kids to be happy, but what are you willing to do in your own work, your own inner work, in order to be able to hold space so your kid can have peace, not happiness, and can know themselves? We as parents have a lot of work to do because we're projecting these things onto our kids, our fears, our wants, what we value instead of what they value. And I think it's time to really look at this because especially the young boys, the 18 to 25-year-olds, they're a little lost, and I know some of that's generational cultural changes. So what are we going to do to change along with those generational cultural changes so that we are better parents? Just like you said, how over the years it's not that your philosophy has changed. It changes as you learn more about yourself and you learn what works with the kids.
Right.
We need to do that on the parenting side as well. You know, it's 100%. Funny because you don't have to take a parenting class and there's no continuing education for parenting, but maybe there should be.
Yeah.
But I like how you've said that your philosophy changes as you've learned more about yourself and how you can connect in with the kids better in order to see positive changes, positive attributes.
Right.
How would you describe your coaching philosophy today?
The first thing that comes to mind is what I mentioned. My philosophy is to help my kids be the best version of themselves. That's number one. Secondly is, and I strongly believe that I am not coaching for my resume. I believe that I'm coaching for a legacy, to know that I've had some type of positive impact on all my players to some degree beyond sport, through sport, beyond sport. And then I believe my philosophy, tie those two together along with buy-in, culture, and getting everyone to understand there's a process and a system. And if you follow that, success comes. Like, people ask me all the time, why do you have such a demand for your teams? And why are your teams always successful? And I say, it's because we build a culture and we get buy-in and we follow a process and system. I don't care about the wins. They come as a part of all of that.
Yes.
So those are some of my big philosophies.
That's the wins are the reward from building a foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Culture is everything.
And what is that culture that you're looking for with your team?
Buy-in. Everyone just committed. You know, you're in or you're in the way. And if somebody's not all the way in, then I'm not the one that brings them in. It's their teammates. Mm-hmm. And that's part of that culture. We're operating under 3 standards this year with this team, and I let them come up with it. And there's points under each standard. You know, first one's dedication, second one's accountability, and the third one is alliance. And under each of those, there's some guidelines in there, some hard lines. And if somebody's going to drift off of the plate, the team is there to bring them back.
And you let the team come up with that?
Yeah,
was that something you presented? I like that a lot.
Well, I mean, I plagiarized pretty well. Notre Dame's has the standard, the gold standard.
I really like that you let the team come up with that. I call them pillars. They're foundational pillars.
Yeah, there you go.
And all relationships, exchanges, relationships need them to succeed. And so if everybody's aware of what the pillars are and in agreement.
Yes, in agreement. It's a big part of it.
You have to have a shared foundation.
Right.
Yeah, you can have whatever pillars you want, but if it's not,
they're not bought in.
If you don't have the alignment with whomever you're having a relationship with, whether it's in a partnership or a team, it doesn't work.
Right. And if I would have made those, then
right. So I like the way you
them
said, at first I was confused when you're talking about buy-in. Is it buy into your philosophy? Is it buying into just whatever I say? And it's not. It's buying into whatever you guys want for your team culture.
Exactly.
I want 3 things and they need to be positive. Then that's it. And so now they're accountable to themselves and each other.
Yeah.
Which is where you get dedication. That's where the dedication to yourself and your teammates, because we've written them down or they're on the whiteboard. It's clear.
Right.
There's no excuses after that.
Yeah.
And so did you just start doing that, or?
I think every year it's been there. This year it's just come out and to a level of, at our training camp, I had told them a week before training camp, you guys are going to come up with a standard and we're going to follow the standard. There's going to be 3 main pillars, we'll call them, underneath. You guys come up with them. And then everything that's under that pillar is what we're going to operate on all year long.
That's so cool.
And
I love that.
Yeah. And they're all in. And it's funny, there's a little bit of Jeffism in there with, I think one of the points in there is being present. Another one is being on time. Another one is no excuses. So they're hearing my message.
You're throwing it in there, for sure.
But they did come up with it on their own. So,
and so what were they for the kids? The dedication,
accountability, and alliance.
Right. And so presence and being on time, those are all, they have to be items under those in order for them to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, you're not just throwing them in, it's the natural progression. If you want dedication does mean being absolutely present with your time for the time that, we're together. And also means being on time.
Right.
Because how can you be present if you're not there?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's very cool.
I try to bring clarity to them too and let them know, I'm human like them.
Yes.
There's times where I'll come in, I'll say, guys, I had a day. I had a day, but like I promised you every day when I walk through that door, that day's behind me now. I'm all about you. I'm all about here. I'm all about now.
It's important to share with them within being appropriate of the role that you're in with them as a coach and so forth, that we do struggle or that I'm having a really hard day, but I'm going to shelf it right now. Right. And then I'm going to bring it back out because I do need to deal with it if it's something, but being able to mentor them in that way that, we all have the days.
I'm not up there being a dictator. I'm up there being a human.
Being human.
Yeah.
That's where connection comes in though. I'm telling you, with people, when they know that you're not perfect or they know that you don't think you're perfect, because they know we're not perfect, but when they realize that we're not in our ego all the time and that I don't do as I say, not as I do, I think that's where respect comes. And you gain a lot of respect from your players very early on. That is part of your reputation as a coach. Before I even knew Jeff, I didn't understand the whole hockey thing. The kid liked playing hockey. And so we all of a sudden started getting into these levels where, as Nate was progressing in his abilities as a hockey player, I had to really sit back and kind of take a look at the whole picture. So there was a reason that Nate only skated and only tried out for Jeff's team. And then it was his choice on whether he wanted to move on or go to another team after that. Nate chose to stay with Jeff until he finished high school. And I didn't get a chance to interview him and ask him why, because I didn't want to, make it about, I already talk about the kids so much on the podcast about that. But that just shows me, because I know Nate as a kid, he wouldn't have stayed. He doesn't stay if he doesn't respect you. And he doesn't stay if he doesn't think that he's going to progress or that it's a good environment.
Right.
Yeah. Nate is not the type of player, and I'm sure this is partly with your influence. He doesn't just go to the best team. Parents are, I realized during tryouts, like, what is all this? Like the skating and have you skated for this team? And that we just didn't buy into the frenzy.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, because sports for my kids were about building character and staying strong.
Right.
Building emotional resilience. There were other reasons. And also being an athlete, past athlete myself, those were very important building blocks for me to then take into the world. That makes us better business owners. It makes us put the extra in so that we can be a business owner.
That's right.
Because,
but as mom, all right, and that, I think it's probably a good example for the audience to know, is that, Nate was a very mature young man in his mindset, like mentally mature with what he wanted. He was like a strong will in that way. And I was very strong. I pick up on that stuff, and as you know, I interviewed you and I interviewed him, and that's just part of my process. So I knew what I was getting, and I knew that I could get through because I knew he would be committed.
Yes.
So we had a good mutual respect relationship together over our years. And I fed him as much as I could to help him be a leader, and he took that and was very good at it.
Well, it was so interesting to me because Nate is not a cheerleader on the ice. He is not the kid that's going to be like, come on, guys. And so maybe you can help me with his presence as a leader, because he has then gone on. Like, he was the only kid that actually wasn't Filipino born. They made him one of the captains on.
I know, I heard.
The 20U international, was a Philippine national team this summer. And
I'm not surprised.
He was so touched, but part of me, I was probably the come on guys and the lead by example, and just, all in the sense that blood, sweat, and tears on the court or on the field. And he does that to an extent, but he has a very quiet way that he leads. And so it's by example. And
there's more to him than that. Like, you don't get to see the in the room side or on the bench side of him. He could be a hard leader, like a demand. Yeah.
Is he a demand?
Oh yeah. He was my captain for a reason. If he was soft spoken, he wouldn't have been wearing a C on my team.
I think it's because Nate is not boastful. Like, I didn't see in the locker room. I don't
there you
see
go.
That. He just sort of takes care of business.
Yep. That's part of that maturity thing I speak of. Like, he didn't care what others thought of him.
No.
Right. But
to his detriment sometimes. But yeah, Nate is his own person.
He is his own person.
He does know who he is.
But if I would have treated him like a blanket treatment, like some of us coaches do, that wouldn't have worked.
No, he would have saw right through you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, that's good.
So you see our role as mentors, as coaches, is not blanket.
No, it's really to get to know each individual person,
What
each
makes them
individual
tick.
kid, what makes them tick,
Yeah.
and then build on that,
Yeah.
right? To get the most out of them while enriching that part of them
Yeah.
and acknowledging that part of them.
Right. Which goes back to your philosophy question. My job is to help them be the best version of themselves in the time that I get with them.
Mm-hmm.
And after all these years, all these kids to come back to me and share what their experiences are in life at that point and the influences I had on that's where the reward is for me.
You have a unique, I won't say acceptance. You have all these kids that you've coached, and you're always Coach Novi, no matter what. It doesn't ever change. It doesn't turn to Jeff,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
It's either Coach or Coach Novi. These are kids that I've seen come back to his skates that are like 25, 26. You allow the older skaters to come back when it's appropriate during the summer skates and so forth, and show your current players who they are.
Yeah.
And so the culture extends beyond just the team that year. It like builds upon. So you have all of these kids.
Right.
And, some of them were teammates, some of them weren't,
right.
at different years.
Different levels and years. Yeah.
But they all kind of come together during that open skate period. And I think it's wonderful that you allow your current players to see.
Right.
I'm going to let you do that as well. Like you get to, it's a little alumni.
Right.
And so that just shows the impact. When you talk about legacy, I talk about impact, the impact that you have had and still have on your present and past players. And I think that it's actually really special. I don't think it's that common. It's
fun. For me, it's fun. I have to share a story because every year during the spring with the clinics, it's always a challenging time for me because I'm organizing it from the invites to the process, to the confirmations, to the thank yous afterwards. And this year I had so many helpers that were former players, and I had an NHL experience out there. I had a kid that I'm mentoring that's actually a coach on my roster was there. Now he's playing pro hockey over in Europe right now. He was with us. And for me to be able to like introduce my coaches to this new group of potential players.
And they're 16.
And
right?
What's
so
that?
They're 16.
Yeah.
So
and I'm saying I got NHL
right?
Stanley Cup champion on the ice, junior world champion. I got a 5-year NCAA college player that played some pro hockey. That's a pro roller hockey player. I got this, I got that. Oh, and by the way, my name's Jeff. And if you want to know anything about me, ask all the other guys standing behind you that are here to help. They'll tell you what they think. That's like the greatest thing for me to be able to say. Like, I don't need to talk about me. Go ask my former players. They'll tell you the good and the bad.
And to stand by that and be okay with it.
Yeah, whatever it may be.
I'm sure that their perception is not 100% good, but that's, I want you to see that.
Right.
I want them to tell you, like, I can be a hard ass when it comes down to it. Right? Because then they know what they're getting into.
That's
as well.
right.
But there's also the awe of, these players have all gone on and continued their journey. And it must feel really good to know that you are a positive part of that.
Just a small part would be great.
Not even a small part. The ahas in life.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the things that people, and especially adolescent boys, I think they don't ever forget.
Yeah.
So they can come few and far between. They come more if you're present. But those are things that you remember. Those are the stories that those kids are going to talk about to their kids.
Right.
I had this coach once. You know what he did? He made us come up with the pillars. And then how can you not be accountable to that? You guys came up with it.
Right.
I can tell you. I just love it. I love it. So you've shared before that your own love of hockey ended early because of finances with your team, and that you decided that you still want to be part of the sport, that it had some sort of impact on you. And how did that experience shape your want to coach, and especially in that particular sport?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those what I couldn't have that I really wanted, and I found a vehicle to help give back to that sport that I always loved. And now it's just such a big part of my life. And I've had some incredible mentors and still do through the organization and through the NHL and through my business. But that desire for hockey was always there. I had a feeling when my kids were born, I didn't really care what sport it was going to be. I just knew I wanted to coach. Sport was going to be the classroom. Hockey just happened to be the subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have ran with that, so now here I am in a sport I've loved since I was a kid that I couldn't afford to play. And I'm able to, it's just such a big part of my life now. And I just embrace it.
When you can tell.
I want to learn. I just gave a presentation to all of our coaches at the rink here recently about leadership. And I would say, like, if we can get past our own egos as coaches and really look at the value we're bringing to these kids, nobody will ever want to leave this organization.
Agree. Because for parents like me, anyway, again, it's not who's winning, what kids are on the team, who went where, so to speak. It's about the person coaching and yes, philosophy of the organization. Right. But beyond that, more important to me is who is going to be in my kid's ear. Hockey's a long season. It's 8 months.
It's also expensive.
And it's very expensive. But who's the one that's going to be influencing my son?
Right.
What kind of male mentor example am I putting in front of him for 10 months out of the year?
That was part of my presentation, is that, in my business, I have thousands of customers, and every one of them is the most important one to me that I'm dealing with at that moment. And I take that same approach to sport. And I think for us as an organization, we need to realize that we're in the service world as well. Mm-hmm. And these parents are paying for that service. So I feel that we all owe it to them to give them our best.
What are you delivering? I'll say, what are we getting out of it? But what are you delivering for that very high price and a lot of time? Well,
the first thing that would come to mind is the fact that every minute of ice is expensive.
Very.
So I use every minute of it. We're never late on the ice, and we stay on the ice and we're moving until we get off the ice. Mm-hmm. That's a big one for me. I think communication is vital. So the parents know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why you're doing it. And then I think the mentorship, that's as Nate would sit here and tell us right now, he didn't ever come to a practice without knowing what we were going to do that day. Mm-hmm. And there was always a message that was to be delivered that may be hockey related, may not be hockey related, that was involved with every practice. And that's still true today. Message to the team sent to a player that gets sent out to the group.
Well, I noticed you did a lot of that. You communicated regularly with your captains mm-hmm. and disseminated information from there.
Right. He puts it out to the group chat. And I was never part of that group chat. So if they wanted to bark about me for whatever reason, that was their platform to do it. As long as they were all on it, as long as the captains kept it in check.
I don't know if that's normal in the hockey world.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'd stay in my wheelhouse from that regard. I would love to help others if they were interested in doing so. I believe I've run that same philosophy with my surf team. We were at the beach first thing at 6:30 this morning, and I communicated multiple times this week. This is where we're going on this day. Can't wait to see you.
Oh, that's great. I would love to see you put together a mentoring program for coaches here, not just the Ducks organization.
In my spare time?
Yes. And that, Wednesday at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, no, I would do it in a heartbeat. If you remember.
Just some sort of forum, because especially the younger coaches coming out, mm-hmm. Think back to when you first started and how much wisdom that you've gained.
Right.
And like you said, it's always tweaking based on where you're at in your life, right, with your own growth. That's kind of the reason I started the podcast, is to sort of give some people a head start or increase the awareness that you can do A, B, C, and D.
Well, you certainly had a big influence on me in so many ways. And I remember laying on your table, getting treated by you and thinking during those conversations, you need to get out to just more than me with your message. And that's what you're doing with this.
I know it took me a while I had to work with my own struggles of being seen. I'm kind of a behind the scenes girl. I like to treat all the CEOs and the coaches in this and then send you out to go change the world.
You're so good though, Chrissie. You need to get out to a broader audience, just like you would say to me.
Well, that's why I'm telling you, I think you should start a mentoring forum or some sort of continuing education for coaches. I think everybody needs continuing education. And again, it's just the ahas, the moments that you can fast forward someone's progress or someone's path along the way just by giving them one nugget that took you 10 years to really start implementing. Some of that's just maturity of how many years you've had on earth, for sure.
100%.
Giving them some golden nuggets early, at least they know where they're striving for.
I'm pretty clear in the fact that I married up too, because my wife has had a big influence on me as who I am.
Definitely. She's been a very big support. And the coolest thing I think about Kim is she just allows you to be you.
Yeah.
Right? You're a busy man.
Yeah.
You do a lot.
She actually supports me.
She supports and allows you to just be you, which is really what unconditional love is.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty special.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I didn't have that childhood though, and you've heard me say this, and I know it's cliche and it's part of a movie script. Some sons are born to you, some sons occur to you.
Yes.
And that's my approach to my players is I didn't have that father support as a kid growing up. And I had a mom that overloved and a father that was absent. And I just like to try to add a little fill into any kids that might be experiencing those things. I missed out on it.
You did miss out on it. Did you feel like the kids not fill a hole, but allow you to tenfold do what your dad didn't do for you? Or maybe the kids that might be in the same situation to fill that gap?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I just know that, I guess my big thing was always, I would never want my son or my daughter to feel the way I felt, to know that I was always there for them.
I think your kids do know that though.
Hope so.
They do.
But as a coach, I take that role as well. Like I had some really bad coaches playing baseball growing up and some really bad bosses and growing up through the business world.
Well, that's why you have your own business.
And that's why I went into management with my company through some incredible mentors that really put me on that fast track to management. I knew by some of those bad bosses and what I didn't have as a father that I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to be a good role model, and even as a coach for my kids and all players that I coached, and also my employees, hardworking employees. And even to today, I love my team and my office, and we work hard together.
It's apparent that the amount that you put in really resonates with the people around you. It's not the talk of, oh, I'm committed. It's in your every thought, your every movement that you're just committed to whatever you've decided to put in your life, whether it's your family, hockey, surfing, the kids at surfing too. And I'm sure at work, it's very apparent that you care about people. And so what is it at business? It's like the number one thing that people give loyalty to or stay is recognition. But with that recognition is also connection.
Yeah.
Right. That means that someone is connecting with you to see what your gifts and talents are within the workplace. You do that across every aspect of your life. It's not compartmentalized.
Thank you.
I admire that.
Thank you.
Do. Okay. So you coached Shane until he was about 11, you said, right?
Yeah. Pee-wees.
The Pee-wees. And what was that experience like being both dad and a coach?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is, right?
It's horrible. Yeah, it's hard. It's a no-win situation. And it's unfair to the other players, whether your son's the best player or the worst player. Mm-hmm. And
I also think it's unfair to your kid. I coach.
It's unfair to your kid.
Right. It's unfair to the kids because you're always harder on them.
Mm-hmm.
Your expectation of them, of how they're behaving.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're also a parent on the ice, during practice, during the game, around parents is so scrutinized, so much more because you're the coach.
Yeah.
I did the whole ASO thing with the kids. And as Lucy started progressing up, I pulled out and just said, I just need to be your mom cheerleading on the sidelines.
But to your point earlier about, me not being able to play at a high level as a young hockey player, I love the game so much. I wanted to stay in the game. Mm-hmm. I was already committed. I had an NHL coach that was mentoring me. I had NHL players, kids on my teams. It was just so much going on. I was involved with the Anaheim Ducks as far as doing stats for them. Mm-hmm. Loved doing that. And I wanted Shane to pursue a higher level, and I stayed at the same level that he was at, but he went to a different place. And then he went on to AAA and I stayed at tier 2, and that all worked out well. But it was really good for us to get away from each other and for him to grow.
So you guys stayed within the same organization. He just sort of took his
1 year.
And you stayed
1 year, and then he went to AAA after that, and then I stayed tier 2 at the Ducks. Yeah.
Okay. How did that parallel your father-son relationship of not coaching him, but being sort
It
of
was
within
great. Yeah, it was great. I mean, because I got to watch the other coaches and judge them.
You could be a real hockey parent.
Yeah,
That's the hockey parents, right?
I've been criticized over the years, and I'm fine with it being a dad coach, but I still tell my parents in my team meetings today that I am a dad coach. I know what the conversation's like on the way to the rink and on the way home from the rink. So I adapt my style, my coaching to that too. Like if I have a difficult conversation with a player, if I don't think that player will translate that same conversation to the parent, I will call that parent. Say, hey, I just want to let you know, I don't wait for the phone call. I will make the phone call. Let's get on the same page to fix the problem.
Proactive.
So,
I like it.
yeah.
Do you have those situations where parents disagree
Oh,
with
yeah.
the things that you've implemented or would
Oh, yeah.
like to see change?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
You agree to disagree, and you just try to let them know that this is who I am. This is what my expectations are. If you're on board, great. If you're not, I understand. Let's part ways. I've never had it happen, especially mid-season.
No.
Our organization does a great job at sending out surveys every year, and the parents have an opportunity to provide their opinions and assessment of the coaches anonymously, right? So I thirst for that feedback, whether it be good or bad. I want to know, because at the end of the day, I want to get better. And the day that I stop is when I know I'm done.
Right. That's true. Growth is ever present and ongoing through all of our years here on earth. I think if you approach life that way, the struggles or the complaints or the, oh, I don't like the way you did this, just becomes information for feedback.
Right.
It's just information at that point that we can choose to grow, and not everything that is said is 100% correct either. So it's being able to discern what's actually yours and what's not, what will be helpful, what's not, what was projected, what is something that I really need to look at. And so as you have that growth in years here on earth and coaching years behind you, it's easier to make that discernment and not take everything super personal,
right?
But really look at the things that say, oh, that actually might be something, and being open to that, right? It's
For
being
sure.
open to growth.
Absolutely. Listen, no matter, life is about 80-20. You're never gonna.
It's true.
Yeah.
I want to touch on the hockey dad and the family part of struggle, and from watching your kids, whether it's level out or something that happened to them that doesn't allow them to play anymore. And your son was diagnosed with leukemia during his junior hockey years, right? When he was striving for that goal of being able to play in juniors and beyond. And so it's a moment that no family prepares for. And from your perspective as a parent and a coach, how did that experience shift the way that you think about sports and resilience and what really matters?
You're so good at asking these questions, and my immediate answer is always there. Gratitude is the first thing I come to. Yeah, it was a tough day, but we got through it. And I remember at the time, the day that it occurred, I was at a coach's meeting. We were just getting ready to start the new season. Teams were picked. I had my manager, I had my team. We're at a meeting, and this all went down. And I just remember Shane just saying, "You're not quitting coaching."
And you planned on quitting?
Yeah. I just thought, how could I? How could I go on? I got to be here. And I really feel like for both of us, that was important for him to know. He knew what I did. He knew the impact I had on these kids, and he knew I needed to continue. And I think he needed that to support him through his journey. It was a tough 3 years. There's no doubt about it. But man, the support I had from my organization, from my team, from my manager. I was taking Amtrak from USC Norris Cancer Center to the rink back and forth, like weekly, daily, all the time. I never missed appointments. Shane and I just talked about everything we were doing at the time. And, we had that daily fulfillment that I got to experience through the medical team around him to get him healthy. And there was a path back to hockey. and we pursued that. I think that strength and that hope kept us strong throughout. It wasn't until, the steroids in the prednisone that really took matters into their own hands with his ankles. So, looking back at it, I think we both grew tremendously by me staying in the game, and we still both love the game, and he gives me input all the time. When I'm able to
Jeff's
talk,
little scout on the sideline.
oh yeah, 100%. Every year, you're taking that kid, you definitely want that kid, and I love it.
You guys so much closer. It's like a team.
For sure. He keeps me grounded. Like, I think my players benefit from him because he says things, Dad, no. Dad, no.
He's the only one that can.
Stop. So, and I take it. I mean, the thing you have to remember now is Shane is at that age where his players that he grew up with playing, that he's still friends with, some of them are coaching with me now. Some of them are married with kids now, and they're still in my life through my son. And I love that stuff. Of course, now he's become such an incredibly talented longboarder in the ocean. And I think as a father, being a 50-year, 5 decades worth of surfing myself, and still competitively, I wanted my son to be a surfer, and I wanted to be in my Ugg boots in the sand watching him compete. He chose hockey, so did I, But now to see him thriving in a sport that's given me so much, that didn't cost me anything when I was a kid, that I could afford, it's just fulfillment of gratitude. And as you know, I give gratitude every day in a gratitude journal, and it's so easy because I have so much to be grateful for.
And you do. And to be able to know that. And the silver lining for Shane was, I didn't know Jeff during this time. We met him on the downside of that. And the silver lining, one, the example, resilience, strength that you showed everyone around you during that time, including your family, with your son's blessing, which is also really important. His ability to get through that time. I know he continued on with his education while he was in treatment for those 3 years.
Yeah.
And then transferred to
UCLA
and got his bachelor's degree from UCLA and was able to complete his education, is still thriving and surfing today, even though he can't really get into skates, but has found that he can lean into another passion and still have that competitiveness and that love for, I don't know, it's like your body feels free when you're playing whatever sport you love or you're doing whatever you love.
Oh, man.
Right?
Well said. 100%.
He's found that freedom.
Yeah.
And to be able to be at one with the earth.
Yeah.
I never did learn surfing. I kind of always wanted to, because I always felt like, wow, that must be the ultimate feeling like you're part of the earth.
Yeah. You really are. Yeah. And every wave's different. No wave's ever the same. Maybe in a pool, but
the pool wave, the perfect waves.
Yeah. That's about the closest you could get to it.
Yeah. It's not the same. Okay. So how do these lessons continue to influence the way you mentor kids today, especially for those who feel like hockey is everything in their world, or perhaps their parents think that hockey is everything in their world?
How's it influenced me? Gosh, I don't even know that I could use the word influence by my experiences. I feel like what drives me is the desire to get better, and to not have any judgment on who I am and my lack of high level playing experience. I feel like I'm just constantly growing in the game, and to a point where I'd be comfortable teaching the game to people that have played it their whole life. Because I think I have that experience now. And of course, I always go back to the mentors. Even within my club, Craig Johnson is our director of coaches, and I lean on him all the time. He provides me with video, provides me with questioning me all the time on things like testing me. And I love that. Get me uncomfortable, because that's how I get better.
Exactly. That's really how we grow.
Yeah.
We don't truly grow until we're uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I'm good at getting uncomfortable.
So how does that experience then go on into mentoring? How does that influence your mentoring?
It ties directly into it. I push my players hard, and not just because of winning. It's the system, it's the process, it's the culture. And if you set that standard and that expectation early, then it's standard operating procedure. So they don't know any different. And I keep it real. Like, I have a lot of kids that are playing high school, and I fully transparent through my process. In the spring, I made it very clear. If you're going to do high school and you're going to do this, I just need you to understand this is what's expected here. And if you can do both, then all the power to you. But just know this is what's going to be expected here. And those 20 letters of intent that were signed, that's where the demand starts. And I've got it. These kids are completely committed. So it's not me, it's them committing to each other through the culture that we've created. That's where my biggest influence is now on kids, is just really that they're committed to each other just through my teaching.
How do you keep them grounded or real in the sense that hockey is just a part of your life? It's not your life, for the kids that are leaning into very singular outlooks.
I mean, Chrissie, I take my business approach into it a lot, and the fact that I talk to them about how I run my day so that they understand that technology is alive and well in our lives now, especially with AI. I talk about the things that I use to run my organization, run my day, run my business, motivate my team at the office, and the struggles I've had of letting people go in my office that don't deliver on the expectations I require. And so these things are brought up in light of what's expected here at the rink, but it's also what you should expect for your own life moving forward.
Yes.
That's where my messaging comes in, is like, I'm trying to get them to understand that it's, like I said earlier, sport's the classroom, hockey's just the subject. I'm using the sport as my classroom.
It's clear that personal experiences have shaped the way you mentor today, right? From everything that happened with Shane to just your own experiences through life and your experiences through coaching. And that makes me think of like the bigger picture beyond sport, beyond even the classroom of sport, and a generation of boys that are having a really tough time navigating everything in a world that is so different than we grew up in. So from the bigger picture, what has been the biggest changes you've seen in the 26 years of how boys show up, not just in sports, but in life?
Well, we talked about it early. All right. So I need to bring it up again. I think distraction and noise and social media is really played a big part in that. But I also think the demand from us as parents is greater than it's ever been on our kids. And I think that's probably the one thing I worry about, is we need to just encourage the desire and the love of whatever sport it is, and let the rest fall into place. Because if we continue to drive our own intentions on these young athletes, these young men, it's going to push them in the wrong direction, and then they're not being heard.
Right. They don't feel
Right?
heard. They don't feel seen.
They don't feel seen. They don't feel loved and welcomed. And that scares me. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the schools today.
Right. We've been talking about this whole series. You're the third installment of 4. And I really wanted to do more than just one, because we need to address this quiet crisis we're having in young men. And I think some of that is these boys, they don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. There's too much noise, like you said. And those outside influences, when they don't have a strong sense of self or core, can be disastrous. And I don't think it's just a show of attention. A lot of them have a lot of despair right now. And so from coaches and mentoring, how do you see those roles helping to fill in the gaps that these boys are facing today?
Oh, man, I think it's vital. I think it's so important. These kids need that. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care who you are as a coach. These kids are hungry. I see it every day. And I can only speak to the way I'm approaching it right now, but I individualize my approach to every player because each one of them's different, different. And I have conversations with them, and I clear it with the parents beforehand, but I will randomly see a player and notice something and just feel compelled to reach out. And I did it this week. And I had a conversation with the father first. And it was profound because he let me know how committed this player is to the team, and how the influence that I've had on their son that he's never had before with other coaches even went in to describe the little things. And then, mind you, we're only 7 games into a 50-game season. That's where I feel we can have impact. Get to know the player, get to know the person you're mentoring, be it sport or any other thing. Listen, observe, find out what's bothering them.
As a parent, actually came to Jeff towards the beginning of real season and discussed some concerns I had going on with Nate, were the things that he was struggling, because I already looked at Jeff as a mentor for him. That was part of the reason that I wanted Nate to play for him, is that I knew that Jeff, if he was made aware of some of the struggles Nate was going through, could keep an eye on him and mentor him in the right direction from a perspective of a coach, a mentor, and a male, because moms can only do so much. Women in general, it comes across very differently than when there's a strong male role model in your son's life that can provide advice, structure that only a man in your child's life can do. And it's important as parents also not to be afraid of letting the coaches know some things, that not to give Nate an excuse on the ice, but to be aware of, so that he could frame how he's pushing Nate. Because I did want Nate to be pushed to be his best. That's what sports are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But to allow parents on the other end, you don't have to wait for the coach to call you and say, oh, this is what's up. It can be collaborative, and it can be part of the process for your child. It's a piece of it. Remember that. It's not all of it, but it's a piece of it. But parents need to be real about what's going on with the kids. They know their kids. They know kind of what they're struggling for the most part, if you're aware.
Yeah.
And so to make it collaborative, so these kids get the support they need from all the different angles, and they are all very unique. I don't expect you to parent my kid,
Right.
but as a mentor, there is I maybe unfairly so, I gave you a lot of responsibility with my son during those 3 years. And we talked a lot about shaping him and the influence that you would have as a coach, as a man he respects, as a mentor in life, in how he starts to choose to live his life in that next phase, in that 18 to 25. So that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, parents, be an active participant in the mentoring of your child, not a bystander,
Right.
and not a blamer. Take an active part, take responsibility, and own the things that you can't do. And then find people like Jeff to fill in those gaps of what we can't do based on our roles. And also own your own stuff. And see where you might be getting in the way, because you might be able to put somebody else in there that can do the job effectively with the optimal outcome, or just the influence that we're actually looking for. You know how if you hear the same voice over and over and over again, and it's in the same tone and the same way,
Right.
you gotta tune it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you gotta find the different,
Yeah.
right? And being much more aware of creating a community and a culture, because we're all in it for all the young men today. Like this generation, I'm a little worried for.
Chrissie, I think one thing I'd like to add to that, because I took our conversations and I took my relationship with Nate very serious, and I did what I could do to help. But I also believe as parents, we need to be selective of who is mentoring
Absolutely.
our kids.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, all it takes is one bad influence. Right? And
Absolutely.
so I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked to whatever sport it is or whoever is mentoring. And I believe that it needs to be collaborative, like you said. And like we've talked about through this talk, that I've constantly worked on getting better. And to your, like, where you brought value in my relationship with Nate and the conversations that you and I had, I carry that over. And I talk to my teams every year at the beginning of the season. Once the team's picked, I welcome them and I tell them this is going to be us working together. For me to follow my philosophy on helping your children be the best versions of themselves in the time that I have, which is a very short window for a lot of kids. Now, in order for me to be effective, we need to work together. So if I don't know there's a problem, then I don't know what I'm fixing or trying to help fix. If your kid is medicated for any reason, don't hide it from me.
Right.
Show me, tell me, because I think that's such a big part of the process of helping a player.
You gotta have
You can't hide it. I
You have
mean,
to have the
a
information.
lot of kids are medicated for various reasons.
Right.
But if I know that ahead of time, I'm not judging. I'm here to help.
Exactly. And the reason that a child might be medicated was to help them be able to function.
Focus,
and focus. And so if you don't have that information, you're not completely helping your child from all aspects. And so that collaborative, that community doesn't mean that, we tell every single person our stuff, but people that you've chosen to be a part of your son's life. I'm very choosy about who I will embrace as a mentor, because I'm mama bear, we're all protective of our kids, but I have a very high awareness and reading of who needs to be in my kid's life for positive influence. I'll say, yeah, you need to be selective, but once you've selected that, then you've got to commit to opening up enough of the story, enough of the situation, so that person can actually have an influence.
There you go.
Otherwise you're flailing.
Right. Or you're working against each other at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in our years together, there was a few players that I was working hard to try to help, but I was not getting that same benefit and support from home.
And you can only do so much.
And I don't throw in the towel. No. I don't give up giving and trying.
You also have to realize that, you do your part, and it could take or it couldn't.
Right.
Right. And that it's not, your worth as a mentor and a coach isn't based on whether that kid got that thing from you. You're a piece of the puzzle, but everybody's got to get on the same page. And I'm sure it must be so hard for you to have parents that are resisting the process when your intention is only in the best interest of their child.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's always got to be a few. There's always a few every year.
Which is why I interview the parents and the players. I'm not just picking the players. I need to know what I'm dealing with.
And from personal experience of being a parent on his teams, I know that sometimes his investment in the player, because of what he sees and as that player as a whole, supersedes maybe the parent sometimes,
Yeah,
So,
I don't like to go there, but I can only do what I can do when I'm doing it, right?
I've seen you pick kids that, not just because of their skill, but there's something about them that they need you that year.
Yeah.
Even though I think you already know their parents might not be as supportive of the process, is a polite way to say it. And we've all seen it, especially if you're in the hockey culture.
Well, and it happens in our business world too. I've hired some people that I thought I could fix, and then I end up having to let them go.
Well, and the key word there is fix. Right?
You've helped me with that one.
We are recovering fixers in all things, whether it's inanimate or a person, and you can't fix. There is no fixing. It's leading the horse to water, but you have to decide to drink it. And at that point, whether you drink it or not is not mine. And so, the key word there is fix.
I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Oh, me Chrissie. Too. It makes me think. It's pulling me back into the 3 seasons we spent with you.
You're making me go deep, and that's good. You're making me uncomfortable.
This is where the growth is, Joe. This is where the growth is. All right. So if you could offer, and I think you've already said it, but it's to be said again.
Okay.
If you could offer one piece of advice to parents raising boys in today's world, what would that be?
Listen, be present, and listen over and over and over again, and let them love what they're doing. Because if they love what they're doing, they're happy. And if they're happy, you're ultimately going to be happy. And it may not necessarily be what you want, but if it's what they want and they're happy, go all in.
I think that's great advice. You've given us so much insight into both challenges boys are facing today and the hope that comes from mentors who show up consistently. And I thank you for that, from a community and from also personal experience with you mentoring, coaching, being present for my son. Okay. And you still are today. I know that there's a little phone calls that happen.
Absolutely.
And it just warms my heart.
Yeah.
After all these years, what keeps you coming back to the ring to coach year after year, generation after generation?
I think I've come to the realization that this is a purpose, not a passion. Yes, I love the sport, but as I've said already, the sport's the classroom, hockey's the subject. I believe that I'm being channeled in some regard.
I'm
And
tearing up a little bit. That makes my heart full, because I agree with you 100%. I think it is part of your purpose here on earth is to hold that space for our young boys.
I'm comfortable
I'm
with
totally crying.
that.
Never happened on the podcast.
I'm comfortable with that. And therefore, I see no end.
I love that, Jeff. When your players look back in 10 to 20 years, sorry, I'm still collecting myself. What do you hope they remember about Coach Novi?
That I had an influence on the trajectory of their future in their life, on their own success, whatever be it. Just a small piece.
I think it's more than a small piece for most of them.
I hope so. But that's it. I'm getting better and better at being present. And I think that's going to be part of the legacy piece, is they're going to know that I was listening when they needed it.
Mm-hmm. And extend that beyond presence to gratitude.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these kids, hockey is really expensive. And so there are some families that maybe it's not as much of a financial strain for. And then there are families that it is, and they do it anyway, because they see the love that their child has for the sport and the community and the people. Showing them gratitude, I think, is really important. And so since you live your life that way, I think it bleeds over, and that you express your gratitude for whatever, whomever, on a regular basis without having to think about it, shows them that they should be doing it too, or that they can do it.
Pay it forward.
It's paying it forward.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So this series has been about exploring the crisis in young men. And Jeff, your story shows what the solution looks like.
Yeah.
It's presence, it's resilience, it's mentorship. And those things last so far beyond the game. You've seen that over and over with the relationships that you have with your players beyond the years they're playing with you, or having them come back and skate, just seeing where they're at in life. And I'm not talking about kids going on to NHL. It's just, they're in good places. They could be playing beer league in college. They could be, some of them are going to juniors, whatever level.
Business, whatever be it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about your legacy.
Thank you.
It's self-evident. All right. So if we're going to wrap, Jeff, I really want to thank you for sharing your journey. I think it's important. It's important in shaping this foundation, the new foundation that we need to build for our young men today and always, but really right now, it seems urgent. And so for you to come on and share how you coach, your personal experiences, your family experiences, is really important. And so thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for letting me be on the show. I'm just filled with gratitude, and I'm just so excited to see you doing what I couldn't wait for you to start. And,
it's a process.
Right back to you, because you're doing the same thing in your way, and you're going to get to a larger audience than what I can do through sport. And I think that's profound.
I don't know about that. You got 26 years on it. A little while
I have a
to
lot
go.
of players.
That's a lot of players.
But you got a lot of influence, and hopefully your audience picks up on this and it grows.
I believe that it will get to who it needs to get to, and it will resonate with those who will step in to their own purposes and wanting to make a difference. That's my hope anyway.
Well, I've been on your table, and I many times have felt, what the heck? How do you get this message out to more than just me? Do you not remember those conversations?
I do. Well, that's part
here
of
you
the
are.
whole,
You're doing it.
I'm like I said, I'm not a techie person. I'm not someone who enjoys that kind of attention, but it's really not about me being in front of camera. It's about the words, and it's about the messaging. So I had to kind of get over myself a little bit, or my fears. That's uncomfortable, but there's a lot of growth there.
You shared that with me originally, and trust me when I say I can relate, because I do not like being in front of the camera. But
you came on the show just for
I know,
the message,
of course, I'm here to support you, but if my message gets to a few people, then I'm happy.
Exactly. And it's got to be remembering why we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's more about, is it going to resonate? And hopefully that it helps to make that difference.
Yeah. Well, let's keep doing what we do.
More people need to step into that. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So this series has been about exploring the quiet crisis in young men. How old scripts of toughness, silence, and self-reliance no longer serve them. And your story shows us what the solution looks like. Mentorship, presence, resilience, and the new definition of strength, one that includes accountability, vulnerability, and heart. And Jeff emulates each one of those attributes. What I take from this conversation is that great coaches don't just shape athletes, they shape people. And when boys are met with guidance that challenges them while also giving them space to grow, they don't just become better players, they become stronger men. To all the parents, mentors, and players listening, let this be a reminder that the voices we bring into our kids' lives matter deeply. So Jeff, thank you for being one of those voices to many.
Thank you.
Our shift is ended for today. Until next time, stay curious, stay present, and stay in truth.